Cumberland School Committee meeting to order this evening at 7:39 p.m. And I will ask you to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, but we will begin with a moment of silence due to the loss of the student at the high school this week. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Pleasure of the committee. Thank you, Mr. Karanka. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Denon. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? And that motion carries 6-0 with Mrs. Teal absent this evening. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have approval of minutes from regular meeting 1/8/2015 and pleasure of the committee on the consent agenda. Motion by Mr. Fiorillo, second by Mr. Salvatore. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion carries 6-0. Next item, report out of executive session meeting on 1/22/2015. There were no votes taken in executive session, and I need a vote to seal the minutes of the executive session.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Motion by Mr. Demotica, second by Mr. Denon. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion carries 6-0. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Thornton, we have Highlander Institute, and we have a discussion of the book Growth Mindset.
First, we have in our midst a RI Fuse Fellow. Ms. Butash is here to talk about her recent trip. Ms. Butash.
Hello, everyone. I was asked to speak to kind of explain how a lot of the most recent things that I've been able to take part in are kind of all coming together here in Cumberland. As I spoke once about being a Fuse Fellow working with the Highlander Institute, helping to move blended learning in our state. Last week, I was able to attend a school visit out in California to visit a model school there that's utilizing personalized learning and blended learning in their school. And so I was part of a statewide group of stakeholders out there seeing how this program is working, so we can get our thumb on a national and have a national perspective on what this is looking like, not just here in Cumberland, not in the state of Rhode Island, but really on a national level, so that as we move towards personalized learning, we can really have a better understanding as we work towards our Gates grant. So that was last week. I was able to attend that school visit. Next week I'll actually be attending training in North Carolina to learn about blended learning, to be part of a team that's going to then bring back training to state principals statewide. And so just wanted the committee and the schools to be aware that we really are bringing a lot of excellent and exciting practices here to Cumberland, and part of conversations that are national and statewide, so that our students here in Cumberland really get the best of everything that there is out there. So we're really excited about that work. Thanks.
Questions? Just a quick one. So what would you say is the most dramatic difference in a blended learning environment, and what would you like to see for the school?
Yeah, so there are all these buzzwords. So we have personalized learning, which has been around for a long time, and the most exciting part now with the blended learning is that we now have technology as a tool to help all of that happen. So you can talk about differentiated instruction and making sure that there are things out there for all students of all different levels, with all different interests, working at all different speeds. But we never had the tools to be able to do that before, and now technology is letting that happen. And so we're finding all these new ways of using technology to leverage all of these exciting initiatives. So the thing that I'm hoping to see with blended learning is that all of the buzzwords that we've been talking about, we finally have a tool, and our students going one-to-one with the Chromebook initiative are finally going to have the tools, and teachers are going to finally have the tools to help all of this happen. And so I'm just really excited about students being able to use technology as a tool to access all of this exciting work. Thank you.
One second, Mr. Mitchell is absent this evening, but I do want to pass out the remaining growth mindset books. Raise your hand, and we'll give the books to the members of the growth mindset.
We'll discuss this at our next meeting. The whole thing?
No, not the whole thing.
Interestingly, my boss recommended this book to me at my last one-on-one meeting with him, so very ironic. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the funding formula for the BEP. There is a special House Commission that will be studying and assessing the impact of the Rhode Island fair funding formula. They are meeting this Friday and the following 2 Fridays on at 3 p.m. I believe it's room 101 at the State House. Yeah, I'm fairly certain it's room 101. I am serving as the Rhode Island Association of School Committees appointee, and I do think we are having testimony from some councilors Schmidt and Lambie tomorrow, as well as Mr. Prignano will provide some testimony about the impact of the funding formula. So I don't know if anyone has any specific questions about that right now. Is it? Okay.
I don't know if live stream is something about to do with it. Live stream.
Got it. And there are 2 presentations. The first one is House Fiscal will be making a presentation. The second is testimony from various school districts, and I think there's maybe 5 or 6 articles of testimony, and it is room 101. Mr. Duffy?
Just a clarification, so is there something specific that you are going there? I mean, I can assume that Alex is going to speak on, and I don't want to call it the council, but is this like a team effort to go and speak to them and everyone has a certain role in it? Or is, that's just what I'm curious, what the plan is?
So my role is one of a handful of members. I think there's maybe 10 or 11 members on the commission. So I'm not providing testimony. I am serving as the school committee appointee for the Rhode Island Association of School Committees. It's my understanding that the testimony will be provided by constituents that are either council-related or school administration-related. And I know there's other school districts like Lincoln that will be providing testimony. And I think there's also a community on the East Bay side that might be talking about it as well.
Our role really, the fiscal whole impact of it, the charge we did before, 08, 2015, how we back the district. Last year we did the activity moving the students back to the schools like K-8. We kind of talk about that whole conversation.
As well as how I think some of the testimonies around like the local share and how that has changed. Our obligation has changed around that with the dual district activity. And I think that one of the other counselors speaking is Sam Zurier, who is on the Providence City Council. And they had provided a report at one point talking about what their recommendations were for the addition of the Mayoral Academy in Providence. So I think they will be speaking to some of that as well. Thank you. Anyone else? No? Next item on the agenda is reports of standing committees, payment of bills. Mr. DeMonica.
Madam Chair, we have a housekeeping issue to clean up. Back on December 18th, we had a meeting of the Finance Subcommittee, and we did approve at that time to pay the legal bills to square that away for the year. And the committee on a 3-0 vote approved to pay $76.71 to our legal firm, and that was not recorded at our last meeting, so it's a housekeeping issue that we need to. So I move that we approve the payment for that meeting.
Mr. Demonica moves passage of the payment of bills from December 18th. Do you have a second? Second by Mr. Denon and Mr. Fear. Mr. Denon. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Demonica. Anything else under payment of bills? Thank you. Next item is fiscal management subcommittee update. Back to you.
Madam Chair, we did meet on Tuesday night. There were a few items we went through. One is which should be coming tonight, is a budget transfer. It's a non-budget item to help pay for an ELL teacher that we need in the district. We've had an increase of students, and this is to help them get those hours that they do. Second item is the finance director went out to, business manager went out to bid for a engineering company to replace the generator for this building here, for our servers and so forth. So that's only just to go to bid for, they approved the bid for engineering, so that'll be in front of us later on. We did have a talk with Sedesco. Every October, they need to evaluate the cost of free lunch versus paid lunch and so forth. And it's been a couple of years since we've raised the price for lunch for the schools, and it looks like the elementary and middle schools will be getting a small increase for next year for our lunch, and that will be brought to us to finance and approval for that cost as well. And Sedesco is going out to their main company, the maintenance division, for bids for electric services for the district, has expired this coming year. And finally, Mark Tucker from Sedesco advised us that the Cumberland Elementary Schools won an award for healthy food, and each school will be given a $500 grant. All the elementary schools will be presented later on, and I'm sure Alex will be here to take the checks right away from them, but that's about it. So we did, have a few items on the agenda.
Terrific. Thank you. Next item is policy and procedure subcommittee update. Mr. Fiorillo.
We did not meet this past week. Our next meeting will be first week or second week of February.
Thank you. Next item is achievement and communication subcommittee update. We did meet to discuss honors and high honors, as well as the National Honor Society. The middle level principals provided us with some input on that. Mr. Dillon, I might call on you to help me out if you have a good memory. I know for honors and high honors, it would be a cumulative GPA. Mr. W said that's, I apologize. 3.25. Right, okay. And that would be an end of the year award versus a semester or trimester award. And then as far as the National Honor Society, it is part of trimester 1 and trimester 2 with the same grade point average requirements. 3.25. Yep. Thank you.
I have one thing on the previous, on the high honors. I believe the other criteria on that was you couldn't get it to end of the year 2.
No twos at the end of the
No 2s, because it's end of the year 1 anyway, but everything equals out to that. I think you're not having to see the 2.
But earlier in the year, 2s were possible because we wanted to show growth and expectations for students. And they'll be bringing, middle level principals will be bringing a proposal, a final proposal to us at the end of marking the period. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Any questions about that? Excellent. Next item on the agenda is comments from the public. Would anyone wish to speak this evening? Councilor Schmidt.
Or I can just answer your question. Tomorrow, we intend to show that committee housing wide, I don't think they're funding much in this particular plan. I've got about 3 to 5 minutes presentation. I don't know what Mark is gonna do. These guys also had talked to him and I'm sure Alex has.
I've got some examples, and I was telling Dr. T that if they don't get it tomorrow, it's because I don't think they want it. It's acute, and it's particularly acute in Cumberland, so that's what I'm going to try to show them.
Thank you very much. I think also if you look at the funding formula, it was intended to provide fairness and equity across the state. And if you look at the most disparate communities that are larger cities, their funding really hasn't increased because their local share has been very small or negligible. And the funding was intended to provide support for the students who needed it most. That's why they needed it. And you're not seeing that if you look at the comparison over time for funding. Cumberland has at least been able to maintain some level or a level of state level funding, but no local level funding. Limited local level funding that, as we know, gets divided. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is new business. Vote on CTA employee disciplinary hearing for teacher A. The school committee had an executive session this evening. We had a hearing agendaed as CTA employee disciplinary hearing teacher A. Pleasure of the committee. Mr. Salvatore.
I'd like to make a motion to uphold Dr. Thornton's recommendation.
So I have a motion by Mr. Salvatore. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. DeMonica and Mr. Fiorello. Any further discussion? Mr. Duffy.
Just for the record, I'm going to abstain because I wasn't on the hearing earlier. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion carries 5 to 0 and 1 abstention. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the NESDEC projected enrollment report.
Yes, in your drives, you have the Google Drive report for NESDEC. First thing I would just point out to you, as you can see, from this year to last year, we're actually up 91 students per NESDEC. That's 45, 27, 46, 18. I would point out that NESDEC does the modeling here based on goal survival, but I think NESDEC probably can't do is factor in parent choice. Even this week, 2 students came back from other private schools to Cumberland. So we keep getting students back. I think NESDEC probably can't factor that in to be fair. But we are trending up in spite of the model saying we should be going down a little bit every year. So that's good news for Cumberland. What else can I tell you? I think some good news right now, I can tell you is each week now I do meet with the mayor on his team on this weekly team meeting. And part of that is the planning department, so I can talk to them about who they're moving in and where they're moving in. And it's a good partnership to have, so I can kind of have more of a sense of what's happening in town as we look at enrollment. I really direct you to the last page of the report. It kind of shows you what could be in the future. And the last page, if you look on the far left, top talks about housing starts in Cumberland. They are up again. We're in the 50 range in the past few years, 50. Now we're at 63 as of October 31st. So housing is going back up again. My thought process there would be to make sure we know where they are building. I think sometimes the realtors may, influence that and have folks move from different locations. I'm not sure they always keep in mind the capacity of the schools when we are building homes. Also, the middle column is interesting. It's the number of non-public students in independent and parochial. So we have 550 students out there. I'm ready to guess we're going to get more to come back as we keep improving our services. So, as I said, we keep coming back during the course of the year. So we have 550 potential customers, I think, that you may see come back. Same goes for the homeschool number. It's at 71 right now. It's pretty steady. And the charter magnet school 347. In terms of charter, also keep in mind, we're not 91 students in spite of the increased extra wave of charters going out for the build-up. So we can 91 in spite of losing 40 to 50 more students. So we are trying to run.
That's good news. It also allows the state to provide us additional revenue from accounting form.
That's true.
And but that doesn't come into play for the year following? Is that how that works?
Mr. Bernardo, 14, 15 enrollment numbers?
Depends on when they measure aid in October, it depends on if they hear about
October? So it's October 1 of
Well, they
14?
updated, I think they updated a couple of times. The original estimates that come out from RIDE.
Understood, thank you. Any other questions on the enrollment report? All right. Next item on the agenda is discussion and/or vote to approve the 2014-2015 school calendar. Dr. Thornton?
You have the calendar from last time, our previous discussion. As you recall, we had some meeting time in the front end of the calendar, September 3 and 4, the beginning of the year. The February vacation shortened a bit once again. It changed from last year. The holiday on Monday, the PD on Tuesday and Wednesday, so it was one more day. Last day projected June 14th with no snow. So that's the current draft in front of you. You can certainly vote on it now, or you could just carry it forward.
Pleasure of the committee. Are we interested in voting, or do we need some more time to query Dr. Thornton? Mr. Fiorillo?
I would ask that we do vote. I know a lot of parents are trying to plan their summer vacations around our schedule, so I think we can behoove everyone to get this done.
Thank you. Anyone else? Would you like to make a motion? Motion by Mr. Fiorillo. Do I have a second?
Second, Madam Chair.
Second by Mr. DeMonica. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Next item, discussion and/or vote to approve Resolution SCPR 1-2014-02, replace generator at the CHS Transitional Building. Mr. DeMonica.
Madam Chair, this is a awarding of a bid to Engineering Design Services of Slaterville, Rhode Island, for an amount not to exceed $3,800. It is budgeted through our Sedesco maintenance account, so we'll be coming in and figuring out what we need from the generator, so our servers and so forth do not go down and lose our data. So I would make a motion that we approve the awarding of the bid.
Mr. DeMonica moves passage of SCPR 1-2015-02, and that's a resolution empowering the school committee to execute a purchase order with Engineering Design Services of Slaterville, Rhode Island, engineering services to replace a generator in an amount not to exceed $3,800. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Denon and Mr. Fiorillo. Any further discussion? Mr. DeMonica, do you know if it's exclusive for just the technology?
No, this building,
This building?
but the generator we have in place now isn't able to handle the service.
We'll handle that. Emergency lighting, things that we have now that are on the circuits, they'll handle that.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Next item on the agenda, discussion and/or vote to approve resolution SCR 2015-03, fiscal 14-15 budget transfers. Mr. DeMonica.
Madam Chair, that is for us to discuss tonight. We voted 3-0 to approve the budget transfer. The money would be coming from the health claims line item and would go to the elementary teacher salaries account. And that's to hire another ELL teacher for the remainder of the year so that the children that are required to get the services will receive them. We did talk with the ELL teachers at our last finance subcommittee meeting, and the numbers are grown to the point where we need to have someone else in the district. So it's a non-budgeted item, but it is coming out of healthcare claims for the year. We have a surplus in that line item at the moment. We've been pretty good with our claims. So I would move that we approve the resolution SC-R 2015-03 to move the money from healthcare claims over to the elementary teacher salaries.
And I don't have the resolution handy, Mr. DeMonica. Is there a dollar amount to that?
sorry, the dollar amount is $45,920.
And is there a line item that it was specifically referencing?
It has here on the form here, CH elementary teacher salaries. So the person will be assigned accordingly.
Understood, thank you. So Mr. Demotica moves passage of SER 2015-03. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Denon. Any further discussion? Dr. Thornton, is this budgeted by number or budgeted by need or a little bit of both? Like, is there a threshold that you have to have another teacher?
We need this, we have around 160 ESL students now, and
How many do we presently have?
Bulk for that, this one, can I quiz you?
Ms. Vogel? Mrs. Vogel, I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Off the top of your head, I will call, what's our total FTE count for ESL teachers?
Well, BF Norton, each grade has one ESL teacher, one teacher who's certified in each grade, K through 5. Outside of the district, we have a full-time at Garvin. We have a 0.6 with a 0.4 coordinator, so really a full-time at McCourt. And we have currently another full-time who's sharing her time between Cumberland Hill and Ashton. This ad is to be able to allow the one who's doing 0.5 and 0.5, I think, to stay at Ashton, and this new person that we have posted for, because it was an anticipated opening in case this was, will probably be stationed at Cumberland Hill. So I'm sorry, I was talking to Jenny.
Not an issue, thank you. Mr. Duffy?
Do we have a rough time frame if there's not much of a need? I know you've already posted it, but.
Mr. Mitchell and I have already screened the candidates with the hope that this would, and there are 2 or 3 candidates that look very promising, one of which has subbed for us for a decent amount of time. So I would say that we would probably schedule interviews for next week, and then hopefully have that person start, February 2nd if possible. Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Those opposed? And that motion carries 6-0. And again, Mr. Demonica, discussion and/or vote to approve resolution SCR 2015-04 ELL teacher FTE 1.0.
Madam Chair, this piggybacks with the item number 3. This is to approve hiring another ELL teacher for the remainder of the year. And it was approved 3-0. And finally, I move passage.
Mr. Demonica moves passage of SCR 2015-04. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Fiorello. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Next item on the agenda is personnel recommendations. Mrs. Vogel.
One for you this evening. So I request the advice and consent of the school committee on the resignation of Dr. Lisa Caldwell, Director of Special Education, effective March 4th of 2015.
Pleasure of the committee.
Chair, I make a motion we accept the resignation of Dr. Caldwell. Thank her for her service.
Motion by Mr. Demonica, second by Mr. Salvatore. Any further discussion? Well, I know if Mrs. Teal were here, she would thank Dr. Caldwell for all of her help with the policy subcommittee. I know she was very appreciative of that. I want to thank Dr. Caldwell for her years of service. 10 years is an awfully long time in education, as we're aware. And also, on a personal note, for her help and facilitation in the superintendent search. I think that that produced an awesome candidate and superintendent, and her efforts in that were very meticulous, so I appreciate that and her years of service. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? And that motion carries 6-0. Does that mean at this point we would advertise
So,
the position?
yes, so we're in the process of reviewing the job description since it's been 10 years since we've posted. We're in the process for reviewing the job description to ensure that it encompasses everything that we're looking for in a candidate. We anticipate posting by next week. I would say that we'll have the search open for probably 3 to 4 weeks, and then we're hoping to be able to hold interviews by the beginning of March at the latest.
Just procedurally, have we, when we've revised job descriptions, do they come before the committee?
They don't. They can, if that's what, typically personnel, and I guess Steve can speak, is under the superintendent's guise, so he can, I don't want to say he can do that without your approval, because I don't mean it disrespectfully like that, but that's under his kind of powers.
Yeah, I don't recall us having revised those recently. I know a handful of years ago, we might have done some of that.
I'd be happy to, however, though, bring it before you if you wanted to see it.
Can you make it available for information in our packets?
Absolutely.
Does that work? Mr. Duffy?
So just a follow-up on that. So if this is going to be a few-week process, do you anticipate this person actually beginning before the end of the school year? And I guess my follow-up to that is, if that's the case, are we limiting our pool of candidates to get someone in quicker to be here for the last month, as opposed to waiting and posting it in a different time frame?
I would say to you that in any hiring process, we take the best candidate, and quite frankly, if the best candidate were unable to start right away, I would think that, obviously that would be Dr. Thornton's decision, but that, we may enter into some other agreement to wait for the right candidate if the right candidate is not available. It differs, it's so hard to talk about, hard deadlines and things like that, because every search committee and every pool is different, but Dr. Thornton is very, he consistently tells us, we don't settle, we take, we take the best candidate, and if there's no best candidate, then, we continue to search. So while I hope that, we post, and that because of the time of the year we post, we get some great candidates, and that there's someone who rises to the top, and we have a recommendation for you. If we need to continue to, if we need to wait for a little while, and then maybe repost again in April or May, when maybe people are looking because for the start of the new school year, we would certainly be open to do that.
Thank you, that's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Okay, good, I'm glad.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Next item on the agenda is school committee comments, school liaison reports. Anyone this evening? Dr. Thornton.
Just in terms of the homework for the book, it'll be chapters 1 through 4 for next time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Denon.
The community school parents are painting the school this weekend. On Saturday, Principal Drew has been a group of over 20 parents, and they'll be painting classrooms with hallways.
Thank you, Mr. Denon. That's very nice. Mr. Salvatore.
Mr. Denny, a quick question. Somebody happened to mention to me this week that does the paint need to be fire retardant?
I think someone mentioned that to me as well. It's all been going through wind, so I think the district is cool with that, just change.
Mr. Duffy.
So I just wanted to thank Councilman Schmidt, yourself, and Phil for teaming up to try to tackle the funding issue. And from what I've read so far, I think that this isn't an anti-charter issue. This is just straight facts. This is the figures, and this is how it affects the community. So I think it's, from what I've read so far, it's setting the right tone. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to shed light on how the current funding formula is affecting our district. Thank you.
For the record, I just want to thank Mr. Brignano, who will be there for us tomorrow.
Appreciate that. And gentlemen scouts, what merit badge are you working on this evening?
We're working on communications.
Excellent. I hope you enjoyed our meeting. Next item on the agenda, Dr. Thornton, do we have executive session this evening?
We do not.
Excellent. And I need a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Fiorello. Second by Mr. Duffy. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? And we are adjourned at 8:13. Good night, everyone.